moving on with the first whorl of the flower. The first whorl which we are going to discuss in detail. The first whorl of the flower is the calyx. What is the first whorl? Is the calyx, which is made of sepals, and generally the number of sepals is 5. What is the number of sepals? It is 5. Is that clear? So calyx is made of small leaf-like structures, and these leaf-like structures, the number is 5. Fine. Now they are having a very important role to be played in the life of the flower. What first is that they protect the flower at the bud stage. Which stage? The bud stage. At the bud stage, they are protecting the flower. Okay, you must have seen the flower when it is a bud. Have you seen a bud? And the bud is covered by green leaf-like structure. It is completely covered by green leaf-like structure, and that green leaf-like structure is the sepals or the calyx. So the first important function of the sepal is to protect the flower in which stage? In the bud stage. Second one, as it is green in color, it is playing a major role in the process of photosynthesis. So it is also participant in it is performing the work of photosynthesis because it has green color pigment in it. And then you may see some sepals are colorful. Some sepals are colorful. Such sepals are called as petalloid sepals. Okay, some colorful sepals are being termed as petalloid sepals. And when the sepals are going to be colorful, they will be involved in the process of pollination also. Is that clear? So there, as I told you, calyx is made up of green leaf-like structures. They are being called as sepals, and number of sepals is generally how much? It is 5. And then when I told you, when the sepals are what happening, when the sepals are colorful, they are being called as petalloid sepals. And then what is their main function? They are participating in pollination. Other than that, the two important function of the sepal is protection at the bud stage, and as they are green in color, they can also perform the photosynthesis. Is that clear? Now comes the next term. If you see in your book, the polysepalous and gamosepalous. Polysepalous means when the sepals are free, they aren't united with each other. Okay, they are not joined with each other. Such kind of sepals are called as what? They are being called as polysepalous. Fine. And when the sepals are united, okay, they are joined together, they are being called as gamosepalous. What are they being called as? Gamosepalous. So polysepalous means when the sepals are free. Polysepalous means when the sepals are free. Gamosepalous, when the sepals are united, then they are called as your gamosepalous. Then what happens, like hibiscus, China rose, you must have seen China rose or hibiscus flower. You will find that there is outside one calyx is layer, there is inner side also small leaf-like structure. There is a second layer, and when second layer of sepal is present, it is being termed as epicalyx. What it is being termed as? It is being termed as epicalyx. Is that clear to you? So when there will be a second layer of calyx present, it is being called as your epicalyx. So this is all about your calyx. Then comes the two terms, deciduous calyx and persistent calyx. Deciduous calyx means the calyx which falls off when the flower is grown, when the flower has turned into a fruit. This particular calyx falls off. That is called as deciduous calyx. What it is called as? Deciduous. When the calyx remain till the end, after the fruit formation also, when the calyx is present, it is called as persistent calyx. You must have seen guavas. At the tip of the guavas, you can see the leaf-like structures, dried leaf-like structures are present, and actually what are they? They are the calyx. Is that clear? So this is an entire summary of first your first whorl of the flower, that is your calyx. What is the first part? Means the first part of the flower or the first whorl of the flower is called calyx, made up of sepals, generally 5 in number. When the sepals are colorful, they are called as petaloid sepals. And what function they are doing at that time? They are doing the function of pollination when they become colorful. Otherwise, sepals are concerned with two important functions, that is bud stage protection and photosynthesis. Then we are dividing the sepals on the basis of their union and their whether they are united or whether they are free. When the sepals are free, it has been called as polysepalous. What it has been called as? Polysepalous. And when they are united, it has been called as gamosepalous. Then I told you, when two layers of sepal is present, the inner layer is being called as epicalyx. What is the inner layer being termed as? It has been termed as epicalyx. Then deciduous calyx, the calyx which falls off after the fertilization has taken place, fruit formation has been done, it is drying off or it is falling out. This is known as deciduous calyx and persistent calyx, which remains with the fruit till lifelong. That is known as your persistent calyx. See, I am reading the deciduous calyx. The sepals fall off either with the formation of fruit or at the time of withering of petals, as in brassica. In persistent calyx, the sepal persists till fruit is formed, and even after that is in guava, and in guava is there, your brinjal is there, your pea is there, the sepals remain. Is that clear? So this was all about the first whorl, that is your calyx. Now moving on to the second whorl, that is the corolla. Now moving on to the second whorl of the flower, that is the corolla. And corolla is made up of units known as petals. What are the units known as? Units have been called as petals. Petals are generally white in color or they are brightly colored. It can be white also or it can be brightly colored. Fine. And in the condition when the corolla is green, what is the color of the corolla? It is green. It is being termed as sepaloid. What it is being termed as? Sepaloid. Okay, so corolla is the second whorl made up of units known as petals. What is the color of the petal? Either white or it can be brightly colored. Fine. And when the corolla is just green in color, it is being called as sepaloids. What it is being termed as? Sepaloid. If you remember, in calyx I told you, when the sepals are brightly colored, they were known as petaloids. They were being called as petaloids. Same here, when the corolla is green in color, it is being called as sepaloid. Then again the same condition is present in corolla also, polypetalous and gamopetalous. Polypetalous means when the petals are free. Who are free? The petals are free. It is being called as polypetalous. What it is being called as? Polypetalous. What is gamopetalous? Gamopetalous means when the petals are fused or united. Okay, they have been fused or united. Is that clear? Now, there you can, in the box you can see one small topic given over there, perianth. Now, what is a perianth? When you cannot differentiate between the sepals and the petals, when it's very difficult to differentiate between the sepals and the petals, that is called as perianth. And the confusion arises because of the structure and the size. There is no difference in their structure and the size, and we are not able to differentiate between the sepals and the petals. It is being called as perianth. Each member of the perianth is called as tepal. What it is called as? It is being called as tepal. Is that clear to you? When perianth is green, okay, when the color of the perianth is green, it will be called as sepaloid, and when it is colorful, it will be called as petaloid. What it will be called as? Petaloid. Is that clear? Now see, don't get confused that when it is green over there, here also we are calling it sepaloid and here also we are calling sepaloid. Here the condition is different. Here corolla is easily differentiated. Okay, you can easily differentiate between the calyx and the corolla, but the color of the corolla or the color of the petals is green, and that is why we have given a term over here. What? The term is sepaloid. But here when the perianth is there, when you cannot differentiate between what? Between the sepals and the petals, in that condition also, and if the color is green, we will be calling it as sepaloid. Now, as you know, this is the entire summary of corolla. What is the function of corolla? Very first function you can very well understand. When it is brightly colored, definitely it will be doing what? It will be participating in attracting the insect for pollination. Okay, it needs to attract insect for pollination. Second important function, corolla gives protection. It is protecting the reproductive organs at bud stage. See, first layer will be calyx, then the second layer will be what? It will be corolla, and corolla is also doing the work of protection of whom? Protection of the reproductive organs, and in which stage? Generally in the bud stage. Is this clear to you? So this was all about the second whorl of the flower. Second whorl of the flower is being called as what? It is being called as the corolla. Corolla is made up of petals, generally white or brightly colored. When the corolla is green, called as sepaloid. When the corolla's petals are free, they are being called as polypetalous. When the petals are fused or united, they are being called as gamopetalous. When you cannot differentiate between the sepals and the petals, it will be called as perianth, and each member of the perianth is called as tepal. When the perianth is green, it is termed as sepaloid. When it is colorful, it is called as petaloid. And function, I told you, they have two major function to play on, and that two major function is that they are doing what? They are protecting the flower's reproductive organ at which stage? Bud stage. And second of all, they are attracting the insects for pollination. So this was all about your second whorl, that is corolla. Moving on to the third whorl of the flower is the androecium. And you know, androecium is made up of its single unit. It is the stamen. What it is comprising? It is comprising a stamen. Is that clear? And when we study a stamen in detail, we will be finding this is the structure of the stamen. Okay, this one, the A1 is the structure of stamen. What is the structure? The structure of the stamen, that it has a tube-like structure, fine thread tube-like structure, that is known as filament. What it has been called as? It has been called as the filament. Is that clear to you? Then on the top of it, there is a bilobed structure. Bilobed structure means having two lobes. Bilobed structure, and that bilobed structure is called the anther. What it is called as? It is being called as the anther. And there are two lobes. This is one lobe and this is the other lobe. Two lobes are there. You can see I have made a line which is joining the two lobes, and that line is called as the connective. What is that line being called as? It is called as the connective. Is that clear? So this is the structure of androecium. It is having a fine tube that is known as filament. On the top of the tube you will find a bilobe structure, that is the anther, and joining the two lobes of the anther. Okay, that is why I am using the two lobes. Okay, or bilobe. Join the one which is joining the two lobe is called as the connective. What it is being called as? Connective. And as I told you in the beginning, androecium's single unit is being called as the stamen. See over there. Each stamen has three parts: filament, connective, and the anther. Filament is a long slender stalk which supports anther at its tip. If this filament won't be there, can you imagine the anther, the two lobes? No, it won't persist or it won't exist. Now, when we cut the section, when we cut the anther, there are two lobes. When we cut it, we find that it has the structure like this, having four sacs. Okay, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and these four sacs are called as what? They are being called as the pollen sac. What are they being called as? They are being termed as the pollen sac. And inside the pollen sac, you can see small powdery particles are present. those small powdery particles are being referred as the pollen grain. What are they being called as? Pollen grain. And you know the importance of pollen grain? Pollen grain holds or contains the male gamete which is participating in fertilization process. Is that clear to you? So see, pollen grain is not the male gamete. Please make this point very clear. Pollen grain is not the male gamete, but it is in the pollen grain, male gametes are present. Okay, it holds or it contains the male gametes which are participating in the process of what? In the process of fertilization. So this was all about the structure of the androecium. In androecium, connective is there, anther is there, filament is there. When we will cut open, we will find 4 sacs. When we cut open which part? Anther part. We will find 4 sacs, and those 4 sacs are called as pollen sacs. In each pollen sac, it is completely filled with fine powdery particles, and those powdery particles are being referred as pollen grains. And pollen grains are containing what? The pollen grains are containing the male gamete. Is that clear? Fine. Now, if you see, it's written over there, pollen grains or pollen are formed inside the pollen sac. When fully mature, pollen sac rupture to liberate the pollen grains. What is happening? This anther is getting matured. Now, just imagine a balloon. If you just keep on blowing air in that balloon, and you have filled something inside that balloon, toffees or something, paper balls, you have filled inside it, and you keep on blowing. A stage comes when the balloon is going to burst, and all the content of it is going to scatter here and there. Same thing happens with the pollen sac. Okay, these pollen sac keeps on maturing, and a time comes when they are fully matured and they rupture or they crack or they burst. And after that burst, what is happening? The content, that is the pollen grain, it is getting scattered out. Is that clear? For male gametes are produced in the pollen grain. I told you, see, pollen grains are not the male gametes, but they are the ones where male gametes are being formed. Now, function of androecium. Following are the functions of androecium. Anthers produce pollen grains which contain the male reproductive cell, that is the male gamete. Filament bears and supports anther in a suitable position for the transfer of pollen. See, if this filament is not going to be present, the position of anther is not going to be fixed, isn't it? And when the position of anther is not going to be fixed, the process of pollination will be disturbed, or it won't take place in a proper manner. Fine. Now coming on to the on the different types of androecium. You can see different types of androecium, and that different types of androecium have basically arisen by the cohesion of the stamens. Okay, cohesion means union of the stamens. Now you can see different categories: monoadelphous, diadelphous, polyadelphous, signaceous, and synanthus. These are the 5 conditions of the stamens. Monoadelphous. If you see the diagram of monoadelphous in the book, the filaments of the stamen are united to form a single staminal tube. Means what? If I talk about your monoadelphous, I'm going to talk about monoadelphous. As I told you, monoadelphous anthers are free and the filaments are united. Okay, that is the first condition of the stamen. In that, what is happening? The anthers are free. The top part is free, but the filament of all the anthers get united into one tube, one filament tube. Is that clear to you? Then comes the next category, and see, everywhere I'm not telling you the examples you can very well underline, or you can mark it from the book and you can learn it from there. Diadelphous means when the filament is divided into 2 tubes. Okay, many anthers making one staminal tube, and one more anther and one more filament and an anther is present. That is called as diadelphous. Diadelphous means 2 filaments are divided into 2 tubes. Is that clear to you? Polyadelphous, many bundles of filaments are there. Okay, many bundles. It is in bundles, not one, but many bundles means there lot many anthers are there, and when anther filament will be there, and those filaments are getting joined up and making bundles. That is known as polyadelphous. What it is being called as? Polyadelphous. Then comes a condition where filaments are free. Okay, where filaments are free but the anthers are united. Okay, filaments are free and the anther is united, and that is known as synecious. What is that condition known as? Synecious. Then comes synandrous, in which both anther and the filament is fused. Okay, they both, the anther and the filament is fused. That is known as synandrous. So these are the four conditions: monoadelphous, anther free, filament united; diadelphous, anthers are again free over there, but filament gets divided into how many tubes? 2 tubes. Polyadelphous, the bundles of filaments are there and anthers still remain free. Okay, anthers are still free. Then comes the next condition, synecious, where filaments are free but the anthers, the top part is fused. And the last one, synandrous, where both anthers and filaments, they are fused. Is that clear? So this was all about our topic, that is your androecium. Is that clear? Now moving on with the next topic. The next topic is gynoecium. Now moving on with the next whorl of the flower, that is gynoecium, or we also call it as what? We call it as the pistil. And each pistil is made up of a single unit, and that single unit is known as what? It has been called as the carpel. Is that clear? So gynoecium or pistil is made up of what? It is made up of carpels. And when we start studying a carpel in detail, we will first find a knob-like structure on the top, and that knob-like structure is known as the stigma. What it has been called as? It has been called as the stigma. What is the work of the stigma? Stigma's work is to get the pollen grains. See, when the pollen grains will come and fall over here, it is the work of the stigma. These are the pollen grains. So this is the work of the stigma to hold the pollen grains. That is why stigma is generally what? It is feathery in nature. It is sticky and feathery in nature, so that it can receive the pollen grains. So the topmost part of the gynoecium or the carpel is the stigma, which is a knob shape, which is generally sticky and feathery, and the reason behind being sticky and feathery is to hold the pollen grains. Then it is followed by a tube, and that tube is known as the style, and that tube is actually a passage for the pollen grain, not the entire the pollen grain, but when we will be talking about the process of fertilization, we'll come to know that a pollen tube arises, and that pollen tube has to reach to the egg cell, and this style gives a way or passage for the pollen tube to reach up to the base of the flower, that is the ovary. Then the base of the pistil or the carpel is called as the ovary, which is round in shape. When we cut open the ovary, we will find that it has chambers, and those chambers are called as locules. What are these chambers called as? They have been referred as locules. Inside the locules, there are the round bodies that are known as ovules, and ovules contain the egg cell. Is that clear? So this is the entire structure of the gynoecium or pistil, or in a single unit, that is carpel, which is made up of 3 main parts. First is the stigma, second is the style, and third is the ovary. Inside the ovary, what are present? Locules are present, that are the chambers. Inside there are round bodies that are known as ovules, and inside those ovules we have the egg cell. When only one locule will be present, it will be called as unilocular. What has been termed as unilocular. And when the number of locules or the chambers is more than one, it has been called as multilocular. What it has been termed as it is being called as multilocular. Is that clear? And you know that, as I have already informed to you, the role of the stigma and ovary is that ovary is the place where the entire process of fertilization gets completed. Is that clear? Because after fertilization, this ovary turns into what? It turns into fruit, and ovules turns into seed. Is that after fertilization? I'm saying after the process of fertilization has taken place, this ovary turns into the fruit and ovule turns into the seed. Is that clear to you? Now types of gynoecium. If you see the next topic in your book is the types of gynoecium. Now what are the different types of gynoecium? Okay, now moving on, types of gynoecium. We have three types of gynoecium: monocarpellary, bicarpellary and polycarpellary. Monocarpellary means having one single carpel. Okay, when there is only one single carpel present, that has been termed as your monocarpellary. When two carpels are present, it is being called as bicarpellary. And when the number of carpel is more than 2, that is being called as polycarpellary. So monocarpellary means having single carpel, bicarpellary means having two carpels, polycarpellary means having more than 2 carpels. Is that clear? And in polycarpellary we have two conditions. So that this is the part, these two are the part of polycarpellary: apocarpus and syncarpus. Apocarpus means when the carpels are free. What is the meaning of apocarpus? See, the first condition will be polycarpellary, means having many carpels, and in that condition the carpels are free. That is known as apocarpus. So please don't get confused. Out of this heading, this polycarpellary heading only, we have two more bifurcations. And what are those two bifurcations? Apocarpus and syncarpus. When polycarpellary, you understood that many carpels are present. In that only, again two conditions are given. When the carpels are free, it will be called as apocarpus, and when the carpels are going to be fused together, it will be called as syncarpus. What it will be called as? Syncarpus. So this was all about types of gynoecium: monocarpellary, single carpel; bicarpellary, two carpels; polycarpellary, many carpels. In that two conditions: apocarpus, syncarpus. Apo means carpels are free, syn and carpels are fused. So by this we have completed all the 4 whorls of the flower. Okay. Now moving on to the next topic given in the book is the inflorescence. Inflorescence is what? Arrangement of flowers on the branch is known as inflorescence. You must have seen there is a particular pattern of arrangement of flowers on the branch, and that arrangement of the flowers on the branch is called as what? It has been called as inflorescence. Fine. Now inflorescence, then the next topic which has been given over there is placentation. For your syllabus, you have only the definition of inflorescence and placentation. You may find in books there is lot kinds of inflorescence are given or types of placentation, but that is not in your portion. For your syllabus, we have only these two terms, definition. So I am only dealing with the definition, that is inflorescence. Inflorescence means arrangement of the flowers on the branch. Then placentation. Placentation is a part of the ovary to which ovules are attached, isn't it? In ovary, I have told you chambers were there, and in those chambers were called as what? Locules. Inside there was a place where round bodies were present. So the place where those round bodies are attached to the ovary, that has been called as placenta. What it has been called as? It has been called as placenta. And what is placentation? The placenta, arrangement of placenta in the flower or within the ovary, you can say, basically if we say the arrangement of placenta within the ovary of the flower is known as placentation. Again, I told you in many books you will see different types of placentation, but that is not in your syllabus. In your syllabus, you have only two terms, placenta and placentation. So placenta is a place where you see what? Where you see the attachment of ovule to the ovary. That point is known as placenta. And different types of different types of arrangement of placenta in the ovary, it is known as placentation. So now we have completed our 3rd lesson, and now moving on with the 4th lesson, that is your fertilization and pollination, which we will be doing in our next session.